Hello, boils and ghouls. Welcome to the live stream event for season 4 of Dads from the Crypt, prevents Tales from the Crypt. We are excited for everyone to join us. We have some excellent guests. First off, we have the director of one of the episodes we're going to be watching tonight and producer of Tales from the Crypt, Mr. Gil Adler.
How you doing?
Good to have you on as always. And why don't you introduce your guest there?
Well, my guest is my wife, and even in those days when we make the show, she was my wife then. And she and Alan's wife had a featured part in What's Cooking, and so you'll see her in the episode.
Excellent. Hi, Joni.
Hi, good to be here.
We also have Mr. Alan Katz, who's having a little technical difficulties, at least with this video. Alan, can you hear us?
I think my camera may have just failed, so
okay.
I apologize. You'll although it's to your advantage, you won't have to look at my face.
All right. And Alan, you're a producer and writer for many of these episodes.
It's all true. Can't deny it.
All right. And last but definitely not least is a friend of the pod, Mr. Chef Joe Gatto.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm like really psyched right now to be on with these guys. I mean, this is like legendary for this. I grew up on this. This was, HBO for me every night. Couldn't wait. And I mean, this is just a thrill for me. I might have too many questions.
That's fine. That's fine. We love it.
We'll try to have the equal number of answers.
Joe, we might have some cooking questions for you as well.
All right, and that I'm definitely going to be able to answer. No problem.
Can you boil a 3-minute egg in 2 minutes?
Say it again.
Can you boil a 3-minute egg in 2 minutes?
I love it. In a Tales from the Crypt episode, I could.
There you go. That's the right answer.
So while we're letting everyone gather, Alan and Gil, why don't you set the table, so to say, for us about going to season 3 and these episodes that we're going to be watching. Tell us about where the show was at that time.
Alan, you want to go first?
Going into season 4, you mean?
Sorry, season 4, yeah.
Well, there wasn't supposed to be a season 4. So the fact that there was a season 4 was already something of a triumph. We took new space. Where did that was season 4 was in Santa Monica, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was at the A1 Globe.
No, that was season 3.
Oh,
Season 3, and then season 4, I think we went to Santa Monica, and then season 5 was in one place in the valley, season 6 was another place in the valley, but I think season 4 we did in Santa Monica, kind of West LA.
But going back to where you're talking about, so how did the show get picked up for the 4th season?
beats the hell out of me. They told us we were finished. I think
at some point during season 3, everyone decided that we weren't going to die. I mean, that's why when we did Yellow, Bob's episode at the end of season 3, it wasn't the end of Crypt. It was kind of the big send-off into season 4. So I don't know when exactly the decision got made, but at some point it got made because we knew we still were going to be making Tales from the Crypt when we did Yellow.
Okay. So you had your break, and then did you have a directive or any goals you wanted to do while you're going into season 4?
As it's funny, as I recall, we had an office at HBO on the 30,000th floor.
Yeah, 39th floor.
It was up there. I mean, we didn't even have windows. We were so high up.
And they turned off the elevator for us.
Yeah. It was really tucked away. We shared office space with Robert Wool.
Oh my God.
Yeah, he was working on something for
Oh,
HBO.
wow.
And so we hung out all day with Robert Wool. It was there that we developed the scripts for season 4. We began to meet with potential directors and put the season together. It was rather heady, as I recall.
I'm kind of curious on how the finding your director process works, because there's so many episodes and you have so many shorts. Do you want to have one director doing multiple episodes, or did you want different looks and feels for every episode depending on what was written?
We were looking for various looks, and we didn't really want recurring directors. We wanted to keep going after A-list, top-notch film directors, and went after those. I mean, after Bob did one and Dick did one and Walter Hill did one, sort of set the tone that we could go after A-list directors, big feature directors. And so that was the initial intention of the whole idea. And then as we got further into the seasons, we realized, well, we have some really special writers, and we could give them a chance at directing.
Oh, that's a fantastic way to do it.
Yeah. But
Well,
the rest,
we were also.
Go ahead, Alan.
I was going to say we were also when the executive producers needed to test a writer who wanted to be a director, we were the boot camp.
Right.
Yeah.
And Dick Donner especially had a couple of writers that he had projects with. And so we were going to, Gil really taught an awful lot of future writer directors how to be the director part of the writer director. They really would come in with the best of intentions, but absolutely not a clue how do you master coverage. Really, some of them, that was beyond their thinking. But as we went into season 4, because of the success of season 3, we were so fucking full of ourselves. Oh my God.
Right.
We thought, hey, let's go for the best. Let's go for, hey, Billy Friedkin. Yeah, we've had Dick Donner, but and he did The Omen. Let's go
John
for Billy.
Frankenheimer.
And John Frankenheimer.
Yeah.
And everybody said we wouldn't get these
Jeez.
people. They said, you guys are crazy. You're not going to get anybody. And, we wanted to work with those guys and just, see what went into their preparation, what went into their thinking in terms of making our little movies, which was great. And, when we went and we used some of these writers that had never directed before, I mean, some of them we had to go so far as to tell them when to say action and when to say cut, because they didn't know when to do that.
It was like having a tourist on the set.
Yeah.
Well, it's like you guys were almost like Roger Corman again, right? Like that, bringing those horror films and like really teaching people the ropes of how to make these, because I'm sure you had limited days to shoot and limited budgets on everything. So everything has to be in step and move very fast.
Yeah, absolutely.
We also, going into season 4, the first director that we worked with, that was in season 4. That was, or was it? What season did Tom direct? Tom Hanks. Was that 4?
I think was it this season?
Yeah, it was the beginning of season 4, I think.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think it was.
So that also brought a lot of prestige and credence to what we were doing. And again, that was a first-time director, and he was terrific. He was great fun to work with. Tom was, he's exactly like his character in Big. He's not acting, which is really the thing about actors. Really, you never hire actors to act. You hire them to be. And the first, every director got 5 days of prep and 5 days of shooting. And on Tom Hanks's first day as a prepping director, he met with all the department heads as he came in the morning, and lunchtime, Gil and I took him out for lunch. And so we headed out to Gil's car. Gil gets in the driver's seat. I get in the back seat. Tom gets in the front passenger seat, and doors closed. Gil turns on the car, and Tom he opens the glove box and he goes through it. He looks at all the radio stations. He pushes all the buttons. He's like a little kid. He's like the little boy in Big. Literally, that's so organic to him. It was people tell you things when they don't think you're telling you stuff, but it was a remarkable tell about just this wonderfully curious nature, this boyishly curious nature that he had. He was very fun to work with.
We would tell these directors, if you're an actor, obviously you know more about acting than we know about acting, but you may not know as much about special effects. So we would say to them,
Right.
Look, what you don't know, ask, because we have people that can help you. If we can't help you, whether it's special effects or camera or a particular thing about sound or however you want to play something, we can help with that. So, you concentrate on what you know best and use that, and then lean on us as much as you need to or want to fill in other areas that you might not be so adept in figuring things out.
All right. Well, let's we'll definitely get to more of that, and I think it's time to start our first episode. So for everyone at home, get everything queued up. You might want to try playing it for just a couple seconds, because sometimes Shudder runs an ad that you can skip. So watch the ad, skip it, and then go back to 0. I'm going to play a about 30-second countdown video so everyone can sync up correctly. And here we go with episode What's Cooking?
For anybody who's watching for the first time, we're so glad to pop your scary.
10, 9, 8, 7, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Watching fucking Tales from the Crypt.
All right, let's start.
Rolling.
Thanks,
All right, Gil, is that sound coming from yours? There you go.
I guess so, yeah. How do I get rid of that? You want me to get rid of that?
Yeah.
How do I do that? Oh, here. Is that better?
Yeah, thank you. Don't want to get in trouble with copyrights.
There you go.
All right. We're going through the house. You see the staircase.
Yep, going down the staircase.
So, Gil, at what point did you decide you want to direct an episode?
Well, we were writing these, and actually it was Joel or Dick, I think it was, who said, you should really direct one. You and Alan are writing a lot of them, and they're really interesting and they're good. You want to do one? And I was like, yeah, okay, I'll try. I'll and it sort of happened that way. It wasn't something that I had this incredibly intense passion about doing, that I really wanted to be a director and I would do whatever I had to do to be a director. It was really that I wanted to make the best show possible. And when they said to me, yeah, we think that you could deliver that, I thought that was a great, vote of encouragement. And I said, fine, let's do it.
All right. We're on the Crypt Keeper intro. Joe, is Wolfgang that ruthless? Joe, can you hear me?
I think that was Rob,
Yeah.
our stand-in, who played the body there.
Reason.
So, Gil, had you directed anything before this?
Yeah, when we did Freddy's Nightmares, I directed Freddy's Nightmares.
That's right. Okay.
And that was a real tough show to direct, because we shot an hour in 5 days, and we had we were shooting 10 pages a day. So when we came to Tales from the Crypt, Joel sat me down and said, every day you have to shoot 5 days, and it has to look like movies, not like television. And I looked at him and I laughed, and I said, what do we do after lunch? And he said, don't be smart with me. And I said, no, I'm not being smart with you. When I did Freddy's Nightmares, we were shooting 10 pages a day. So I have no problem
Wouldn't
shooting
work
5
upstairs.
pages a day.
Now, I got to say, when Victoria suggested Meatloaf to play the part of Mr. Chumley in a show about cannibalism, even if he was wrong for it, just based on his name alone, we had to cast him.
Right.
How can you not have Meatloaf in a show about cannibalism?
No, where'd you go the squid from? And did that smell at the set?
Yeah, where did we get all the squid from? Now,
no,
Chris
go ahead,
was very particular about his wardrobe, wasn't he?
Tell me
Gil?
about casting Chris.
I think Alan and I one day, just thought this would be a great idea. We knew that Dick obviously knew him really well. And so I went to Dick and I said, do you think there's any chance we could get him to do it? And he said, if you really want, I'll call him at home in Massachusetts and get you on the phone and see what happens. And that's how it started. And we did a lot of prep. We did a lot of prep with him over the phone in Massachusetts before he even got into LA. And Alan was saying about the wardrobe. I mean, I had gone over with him and I'd said, how about a flannel shirt, a plaid flannel shirt? Does that sound right to you? And he said, yeah, that's good. That's fine. And when we got to LA, he had a problem with the shirt, and wardrobe came to us and said, oh, he doesn't like any of the shirts we have. I said, what does he want to wear? And he goes, he just wants to wear a blue Oxford button-down shirt. And I said, oh, do we have one? And, they said yes. And I said, well, ask him to put it on and come in and let me look at it. And so he came in and, I made him turn around this way and turn around that way so I can look carefully at the shirt, which I didn't really give a shit about. And I just said, if you feel comfortable in it, let's do it. And he thanked me and walked out. And that's how we got that.
Wow, the casting on everything was just unreal. I mean, the amount of stars you got, was each one budgeted the same?
Yeah, one of the things that I said when we took the show over was we wanted to go after stars, and they said, well, you're never going to get them because HBO isn't going to give you any more money. And I said, I didn't ask for more money. I was just asking about what? I was just asking about, can we get the stars? And that's not me. Here, mine is here.
Yes.
It's all. You're not hearing mine, right?
No.
Okay. And so we just said, let's go after stars, and we call up agents. Victoria would call and say, we have scale plus 10%. It's 5 days. It's in Los Angeles. You're in and you're out before you know it. These guys treat you very well. Do you want to do it? And we would offer, dramatic actors, maybe parts that they didn't get before. And so everybody said yes. It became the thing to say.
Now, Meatloaf, we should point out in this scene, when we cast him, the idea for him was almost a month before we shot, but we didn't have him until about 2 weeks before, and the body cast had to be done a month before. So we all know that Meatloaf is a big guy, big heavy set guy. So Todd Masters, he cast a heavy set guy to be the body double, and for the scene in the meat locker. But when Meatloaf showed up, he had just done a crash diet. He lost 80 pounds, and he was really proud of how svelte he was. And when he saw the body that we had used for him, he was horrified. But he understood that it was what it was. But the problem was, because the body looked so big, even though he had lost all that weight, he had to wear a fat suit so that his wardrobe looked right.
And you know what?
Demoralizing thing.
When we cast him, I knew Gordon from years before, because when he started his group, Jim Steinman was writing all his music, and I was friendly with Jim Steinman in Manhattan. And I actually introduced Jim to Carla Jane DeVito, who became the lead singer for Meatloaf. And she was in a play that I had done in Chicago that I moved to New York called El Grande de Coca-Cola. So I knew Gordon, and I knew him as Gordon from years earlier, and I knew him as a very heavy guy. And so when we got the suggestion of Meatloaf to play this, this is great. And I called him, and he said, "Oh, I can't wait to see you. I'm so glad that you thought of me." Blah 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 blah. Walks into my office, and I go, "Hey, how you doing? We gotta do this fast because I'm waiting for Meatloaf." And he goes, "Gil, it's me." And I just couldn't believe it. He had literally lost 100 pounds. And I thought, how are we going to make this work? You know,
It's like Brando in Apocalypse Now, except the opposite.
now you tell me.
And what about Judd Nelson?
Alan, you remember where that came from?
I think it was a good suggestion. I think at the time it was still, Brat Pack was still, they were still viable people. So Judd was a good get, and he had all those right qualities of menace.
Mm-hmm.
He's
Menace.
done all those John Hughes movies, and
Yeah,
we just liked that idea, and we thought
he was the bad boy.
fits well, and he's a good actor.
Yeah.
And he's still a good actor.
Yeah, I think everyone was quite well cast here.
Oh yeah. And tell me about like adapting this from the comic to the screen.
Oh well, hey, it was about a diner. All we were obligated to use was the title, and so that's really what it's about. I think it was about a chicken restaurant, but who gave a shit? So we made it about cannibalism instead.
Well, when Alan said we're obligated to use the title, that's true. But unfortunately, the comic books were written in the 50s, and if you read the first two panels, you understood and got the entire story. So we had to take the initial idea of it, or the gem of it, the germ of it, and make it into something that was more conflicting, more twisted, more sexy, more horrific, and yet funny.
This episode ultimately is about a relationship.
Right. And it really had to do mainly with us and our relationship with Squid.
Oh well, yeah, of course. But I think the success of this episode and the story hinges on the fact that they have this solid relationship, which Judd's character thinks he can do something about, and it's never in question. It's in a way, it's kind of like what we did in Death of Some Salesmen, which is the con man conned.
Mm-hmm.
That's sort of kind of what happens here.
Now, Joe, do you have what's your favorite squid preparation? Joe, can you hear me? I'm not sure if you're frozen or not. Oh, there he goes.
It was a great question too.
Joe, can you hear me?
Yeah, too many kids at my house right now, buffering my internet.
Joe, what's your favorite preparation for squid?
I don't do squid. I am not a squid guy. we do love calamari. That's a huge hit. So calamari is definitely something we do a lot. I'll do octopus. And when we were in Mexico, I did octopus. My kids were all a hard pass on that. But my middle daughter loves the calamari.
You might try squid on a stick next time with the kids.
When I was watching the episode, I said, wouldn't it be fun to go back and recreate some of the meals for like a Tales from the Crypt party? And like I could mock the squid and do something really fun with it, like using a different thing, but then do one squid dish just straight up and see who dares.
I love it.
You could do some ambergris, or I guess.
Well, I do a lot of,
I should jump in here. I just want to jump in here because here are the wives. Our wives just walked in to the scene. We should point that out. That's, of course, Jeanette to the left and Helen, my wife, to the right. So
amazing.
Joni,
he would be amiss if we didn't point that out.
Did you ask him to be in this episode, or did he ask you?
They wanted two ordinary women. And Helen and I said, ordinary. And that basically was it. They wanted to just people who were like us, just to sit at a table. We honestly thought we were going to have to eat squid, and that wasn't very appealing, but we did it for them.
Thank you, honey.
You got to order the steak, in fact.
Oh, right. You remember.
Yeah.
Right. All right. Never
Yeah.
mind the fact that it's human flesh, but
Wrong move. Yeah.
Now, did you have like a food artist on set for these scenes?
I'm
did
curious.
we have
if you
a
do.
food artist? Did we have a food artist in the budget, Gil? Do you remember what we had for the food artist in the budget?
Yeah, we had a caterer. We had a caterer for less meals than we had crew.
How do you deal with the food on set? Because like I have a cooking show and stuff like that, and we're prepped for that kind of thing. But when you're on a film set, how many takes are you going to get of those steaks, and who's buying those? Is that something that's like you're concerned with, like the look of the steak, or you just need steaks on set when you're doing that?
No, we have people that help us with that, and yeah, we are concerned that it looks. I mean, we want the squid to look disgusting, and we want the steaks to look great. So
right,
we want this transition from squid to steak, and then find out that it's human to work, and to be from gross to great to delicious to, oh my God, disgusting.
Like that. This is I think was the whole reason we did this episode, was the butt steak moment. This is the point of the exercise. But it was so important to do it in one shot, so that the judge could do the hack with the knife and take it and put it right onto the tray in one shot. That was
great.
Really, really important.
It was great. You guys did a great job.
Long Hill spoil.
That's classic. Did Christopher have any apprehension about like the violence and gore in this, or was he like game?
No, he preferred the violence and gore with me. It was really bizarre. I included him in everything. I was frightened to death. The first time me directing a big star, and I didn't want to disappoint Dick as well, because he was sort of doing me a favor by introducing me to Chris. And when we first started shooting, every first 2.5 days of the 5 days, every shot I would set up, and I would walk them through it, and then say, okay, well, now let's do one and get the camera set up. I would say, does anybody have any problems? Everyone comfortable? And Chris would say, no, I'm not. And I'd say, oh, what's the matter? And he goes, I don't like the shot. And I said, oh, what would you like to do? And he goes, I don't know. I'm not the director. You're the director. You figure it out. And he would walk off the set. And I was like, oh, God. It was like someone put a knife into me. I just was so frightened and so upset. And I put up with this, and I changed shots, and I changed how I would shoot it until the beginning of the third day. I was so pissed off and so upset with him that I just stopped shooting. I said to everybody, take 5 minutes, which we never did. And I got Chris alone behind the set. And I said to him, what am I doing wrong, Chris? What's the problem here? What am I doing wrong? Tell me what I'm doing wrong so I can fix this. And he went, what? What are you talking about? And I said, every shot I set up, you hate. And you don't give me any suggestions. It's not like you say, I don't like this shot, but I think this would be a better shot if we did this. You say nothing. And, he looked at me kind of strangely, and he went, this is the shot Alan was talking about. And the meat off the butt. Anyway, and he said, oh, I didn't realize I was doing that. And I said, yeah, every shot. And from that moment on, he called me boss. He said, okay, boss, I'm sorry. I'll do whatever you want.
Oh, wow.
I don't want you to do whatever I want. I want you to do what we want, but I want your best input. If you don't like a shot, that's cool. Tell me why. And for the rest of the next 2.5 days, we got along great. We became quite friendly after that. When he had the accident, we called up and spoke to Dana and knew how severe it was. And shortly thereafter, Alan and I decided, and we called Dana and said, look, when he's feeling up to it, when he's recovered, we'd like him to come back and direct an episode of Tales from the Crypt.
Oh wow.
And however, whatever condition you're in, once you're comfortable in doing that, you got a spot. We want you to do one. And obviously, he never did it. But Dana called back and said that meant the world to him. He was so thankful that we had done it. And when I made Superman Return, Brandon Routh was very friendly with their son. And I think to this day, Brandon Routh and their son are very close friends.
Wow. That's. I think somebody's film is playing in the background. I can hear it. I don't know whose it is. I don't think it's mine. Is it? Can you hear me?
It's not mine. Mine's on mute.
Okay. I just want to make
is
sure
that
it's
you?
not me.
Don't think so.
All right.
There it is.
That's it. I'm curious, Gil, as that must have been quite daunting as a director to deal with all of these stars coming in, knowing that there's going to be egos and time and schedule and stress. I wonder if did that wear on you, or is that something that all of a sudden you were like, oh, okay, I know how to deal with this?
Well, let me answer it this way. Before I did this show, I had long red hair down to my shoulders. I looked like Christ. And you see where I am today? There's not much left. And it's all white.
Fair enough.
No, it was challenging. It really was challenging. I mean, because they all had different, as the directors. I mean, we wanted these great directors, and each one had a different way of doing things. And, we had to figure out how to adjust and get what we needed out of them in terms of quality and in terms of time. And it was a real learning tool for me, especially dealing with a Billy Friedkin and a John Frankenheimer and even a Joel Silver to direct.
Right.
That, I needed to have different skills to deal with each of them. And I need to figure that out quickly.
Yeah, you have to figure, especially because you're on you said 5 days. Everyone had 5 days to shoot.
Yeah, 5 days of prepping, 5 days of shooting, 5 days of editing.
I mean, for Billy Friedkin, that's just shooting the bacon in the pan, right? That's 5 days, just right on The Exorcist that I had read. So that must have been.
I've told this story before, but with Billy Friedkin, I went to Joel and I said, "Look, I've got a great idea for who should direct an episode." And he said, "Who?" I said, "Billy Friedkin." He goes, "You're out of your mind. You're out of your mind. He'll kill you. He can't tie a shoe in 5 days." And I said, "Joel, if I want to meet with him." And he said, "Do whatever you like." And so I met with Billy Friedkin at Hugo's on Kings Road and Santa Monica Boulevard. And we had breakfast there. And, I leaned over the table and I said, "Billy, I really want you to do this show. I really, really want you to do it. But you have to do it in 5 days. And if I think you're trying to get a 6th day out of me, I'm going to fire you. And I'll finish it, or I'll get Bob Zemeckis to finish it. Somebody will finish it. But I promise you, I will fire you." And I'm all worked up and I'm almost spitting at him over the table, and he leans in to me and we're like nose to nose, and he goes, "Do you know who you're talking to?" And now people had said to me, "Be careful with Billy because he'll punch you in the nose. He'll hit you." So I leaned back, so my nose was out of view, out of range, and I said, No, I know who I'm dealing with, but you have to understand, this is how we're going to do it." And he said, "Listen, I've never met anybody so passionate about a show as you. I'll do it." I don't know.
Wow.
We all just got an Amber Alert.
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay.
So that was with Billy, and then I went back to Joel, and he said, "You're responsible for this episode. You're going to pay for the overage because you're going to go way over." And I said, "I'm not going to pay for it, and we're not going to go over." And he threw me out of the office and said, "Do whatever you want. I don't care." And so I hired Billy, and Billy couldn't have been better. I mean, we had a great time with Billy. The only thing Billy really wanted was he wanted to shoot the musicians live as opposed to pre-recording. And we knew we could get stuck in that. And so I said to Billy, "If you can do it in the amount of time we have, I'll do it. But you have to guarantee that. I mean, you can't come to me and say to me, 'I need another half a day.' I don't have it."
Right.
So he said, I know, you told me that already. You've told me that 100 times, Gil. I understand it. I want to do it live. I will do it." And he did.
I mean, he came from that documentary background, like in the French Connection, such guerrilla style. that I'm sure he had it in him, but then when he was got
That
the bigger he
appealed to
got.
him.
Yeah.
That was part of the appeal of doing our show, was to kind of go back to his own roots.
Yeah.
Right. That makes sense.
And about a year later, I got a call from Paramount saying they need to meet with me because they're making a movie with Billy, and Billy said the only producer he wants to work with is me. And so I go into Paramount and I sit down, and these three people hover around me and they go, "What do you have on Billy?" I go, "What? What do you have on Billy?" Billy is saying he needs you to make this movie. And I said, "I have nothing on Billy. Why is he saying this?" And I said, "I don't know. Why don't you ask him?" I don't lie to him. I never told him, he had 4 hours when I knew he had 6 hours to get a shot. I never told him he couldn't do this or couldn't do that. I would just tell him what the problems are and how I thought we could solve it, and solicited his ideas of how to solve it, but knowing that our parameters weren't going to change. And, we got along great. In fact, years later, I was in a restaurant and he was there with Sherry, and Jeannie and I were having dinner, and I saw Billy, and Jeannie said, "You should go over and say hello." And I go, "Oh my God, he's not going to even remember me." And I'm sitting there eating, and all of a sudden I get a tap on the shoulder, and it's Billy. And he goes, "You probably thought I didn't recognize you. I recognize you. How you doing, man?"
That's awesome.
And that was like maybe a year, I think, before he died. But it was unbelievable. And we saw Sherry and talked to her a little bit. But it was, it was really special working. And it was really special working even with Frankenheimer, who drove me nuts. But
Yeah.
it was just an interesting experience and a very interesting learning curve of how to deal with psychology.
That's so much of what you do, right? It's the psychology of it.
Yeah, I think you might cut out for a minute.
I think Gil's lagging too.
Oh, hate when that happens. Well, here's of course is the
big twist.
the ending, the lovely twist ending. Of course, it's all about the relationship, and then Art LaFleur.
Now, Joe, while we have you, if gone to your head, you had to cook some mystery meat from dubious sources.
This is already terrifying me.
How would you do it?
What meat am I cooking?
Human meat.
Oh, I lost you too.
How would you prepare human?
Oh, I mean, if I hadn't before, you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
If you haven't before, okay. Well, okay, let's be fair. When you last prepared human, how did you prepare it?
For me personally, I would be grinding and making a sausage, because it's very easy to hide the flavors when you're emulsifying meats. So I would definitely be grinding, making a nice Italian sausage, making some subs for everybody, but definitely grinding.
But do you necessarily want to be hiding the flavor?
Yeah, I mean, it could accentuate it as well, Alan. You're completely right. We could go both ways with it. We could make a couple kinds of sausages and really have a sausage party.
If you want to embrace the flavor.
I mean, there are some cuts of beef where it is the very beefiness is the point.
Yeah, I mean, when I do my grind for my burgers, it's brisket, sirloin, and chuck, because I'm trying to like really get that beef out there. That's what I'm looking for.
What are you going for? What's that flavor? What's that mouthfeel? What's that entire experience that you're trying to put inside the customer?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm trying. Alan, I think we just became friends.
The creative process takes various different forms,
That's right. Film and food are so close anyway. I mean, they're both better with an audience.
For sure. Oh gosh, yes. Hey, it's great making a great meal for yourself, but when someone else savors what you've prepared, of course, it's elemental to us as human beings.
That I couldn't agree more. I always say, like, you having a meal by yourself can be really great, and the food can be great, but when you're doing it and you're serving it to everyone, it has that kinetic energy through everybody, and it becomes an event. Just like if you watch a scary movie at home, right? It's
Mm.
fun, and you might be hiding under the blanket, but if you go to a theater and that jump scare happens, and it's a collective, that's a whole different ball game.
How's that?
Indeed.
There you
Perfect.
go.
Oh,
Welcome
much
back.
better now.
Sorry about that. My phone went dead.
That's
Yeah,
okay.
happens
We,
to all of us.
We
just
only
finished
ever
the
think we have the
episode.
technology. You
And
know,
we're just
it
talking some
has
more.
us.
We're talking some
Alan, that's
cannibalism
funny.
recipes.
That's exactly the theme of my next cookbook that I'm actually doing with Fangoria,
Huh.
is how film and food collide and how they both have been huge parts of my life. So each chapter is based on one of my favorite horror films, and I've kind of molded the food to that, like Texas Chainsaw Massacre is about grinding burgers and things like that, because I do think they're so similar.
Oh, that's a great concept. I love it. Love it. Love it. Love it.
And super fun to write.
Oh,
Gil,
yeah, even
just a
even better.
little follow up to your freaking story. What
All
movie
right.
did Paramount call you in about? And
Joe
It was a
Pantoliano as well.
basketball movie. Cool something or something cool, I think. He made it, and as soon as, of course, I met with Paramount. You know, I had nothing to tell them that helped them at all in terms of Billy, and they made me the offer. And Joel heard about it and went crazy, and immediately greenlit one of our pictures and said, "I'm paying you money, and you're not doing that, and you're staying here."
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Gil, I
All
had
right,
read that
I'm
one
going to
of
say to
your
Billy, "Look, I'm really sorry. I can't do it now. I could do it in 6 months, but I know you're not going to wait for me, and nor am I asking you to. But you know, I'm sort of here. I can't really burn that bridge."
no,
Gil, I had read your first producing credit was Home Movie, the De Palma film.
Yeah.
That's incredible. That's incredible. I mean, De Palma's such a legend, but that's right at the beginning. That's when his formative, right? I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
that
He
were
was
you
a
in
bi- he was a
school
big
then?
he was a big director at that point. He had already made Carrie, and
Oh,
he already
okay.
made the Kirk Douglas movie. And you know, I was teaching at Sarah Lawrence. I was teaching at Hunter College about plays, and if you want to learn to produce a play, produce a play. And he was teaching at Sarah Lawrence College in movies, saying if you want to learn to make a movie, make a movie. And we met at a party, and we started talking. And he had this great idea. He said, "I hate driving up to Sarah Lawrence College twice a week. It's like 20 minutes to a half hour each way, and I'm sick of it. Why don't we?" He had a great idea. He said, "Let's combine the two classes. Let's see if we can get permission from Hunter and from Sarah Lawrence. Combine the classes, and we'll teach the class in my apartment and your apartment all day on Saturday." And they agreed. They loved the idea.
So
We had about
cool.
15 students, and you know, Brian came up with an idea for a movie, which was Home Movies, gave us an outline, and then we would have, you know, like of the 15 kids, we would say, "Okay, you're going to write scene 1, you're going to write scene 2, you're going to write scene 3." The next Saturday, we would come to class in my apartment or his apartment, and we would read and critique what they had written. And then we would say, "Okay, you wrote scene 1, you heard the notes from scene 8, you're going to rewrite scene 8. You're going to rewrite scene 1 based on the notes." And we did this for 2 semesters. And during the time, we also talked about, okay, what do people do on making movies? What is a gaffer? What is a grip? What is the DP responsible for? How do you work with the DP? And so we had all these kinds of conversations about making movies. And at the end of the 2 semesters, we looked at each other and we said, "Goodbye and good luck. Take care." And these kids said, wait a minute. You guys have been talking all season about if you want to learn to make a movie, make a movie. We have a script now. We want to make this movie. And so Brian and I looked at each other, and my partner, Jack Temption, as well. And we went, gulp, we're going to have to help these kids make this movie. So we raised $350,000 to make the movie. And I slept in the production office on a cot, no air conditioning, on campus. I mean, it was insane what we did. It was just insane.
That's awesome. The roots of filmmaking and that time, especially, you know, for me, that set the tone for film forever. That's the time when De Palma and when the studio system, you know, got kind of taken over by the director. And those were the, you know, the Scorsese, Coppola, De Palma, all, you know, the conversation can go on and on. So to be a part of that movement must have been incredible.
Oh, it was, and George had just done Star Wars. We made home movies in 1979. So and we were working on it in 1978, and
so Spielberg,
it
and
was the most bizarre experience I've ever had.
Jeez, unbelievable.
Okay.
Legend.
Let's cue up Split Personality.
I can't hear you, Jason.
Can anyone else hear me?
I can hear you, Jason.
Okay.
I can hear you, Jason.
Okay, Chef,
I can't hear you, Jason.
Okay.
I have no idea.
Alan, and now we can't hear Jason.
This is too funny.
Signals, but we're going to go ahead and start the next episode.
Why I can't hear
Okay.
you.
So Split
Well, if he needs me for
Personality.
something, just you guys let me know.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to do the countdown once again. Gil, you ready?
No, I'm not. How do I let me see how I get back to this. Okay, how do I get to this? How do I get to the episode?
Do you see the episodes button again, or a back button, the back arrow?
Okay, hold on.
I'm gonna hop back. I'm gonna hop off and hop back in.
Settings.
I am queued up and ready.
All right.
Is it something?
Okay.
Alan, there we go.
Where is the episode in season 4?
Yes.
Yep. Oh, now I can hear you, Jason.
Okay, good.
Okay, and it's called
Split
Personality.
Split Personality. Got it.
Okay. All right, I'm
Oh,
going to do
Joe
the
Gatto.
countdown video again, and then we'll all press start at the end when John tells us to.
Anybody who's watching for the first time, we're so glad to pop your scary.
10, 9, 8, 7, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Watching fucking Tales from the Crypt.
And press starts.
Rolling.
Now, what's so special about this episode, Alan and Gil? Tell us.
You want to go first, Alan? You want me to?
Where did the idea that Joel should direct an episode come from?
Joel.
Tell us. Tell us about Joel.
Oh, Joel. Let's see.
Gentle.
You ask about the
Be
work.
gentle. Be gentle.
You ask about working with those directors. I'm sure Joel had something to do with me being bald and all white, what's left of my hair. He just wanted to direct one. Jan de Bont had directed one, and Dick directed one, and Bob directed one, and Walter directed one. And he said to me one day, "I want to direct one." And I laughed. I said, "You're kidding, right? You don't have you can't concentrate that much. You won't be able to. You have to look carefully. You have to see. You have to look into people's eyes. You need to get performances." And he goes, "I can do this. Anybody could do this. I'm directing it." And so, it sort of came as he's directing it. And I said, "Okay, well, this is the deal. Okay, I'm the producer on this show. Okay, so you can fire me, but not when I'm producing this show. And if you're going to direct this episode, there are no cell phones on the set. And you're not taking phone calls every 5 minutes, and we're not delayed in production because you're figuring out some other movie or some other issue, or somebody from Warner Brothers calls you. You understand that? That's how we do this." And he said to me, "How dare you talk to me like that?" And I said, "Because that's how I talk to all of the directors that way. If you're a director on the show, I'm going to treat you like a director on the show." And he said, "Fuck you." I'm not going to listen. And he said, "You will listen to me. You will, or I'll throw you off the set. I'll replace you. I'll finish the episode." Same speech I gave to all of the directors. And so we get to the set, and Jan de Bont was shooting it. And, Jan was basically directing it, and I was directing it. And Joel was, he started using his phone. So I got into a big fight with him on the set. And I said, "Give me your phone." He said, "Get out, get away from me." I said, "Give me your phone." And I chased him around getting the phone, and he was holding the phone over his head. I said, "Get off the set with the phone. You're not allowed to have the phone on the set." And he would
This is
wave
awesome.
off and he would walk off the set and they would come back on. So the whole episode was that. It was tyranny. It was just insane. And I would say to him, you know, you have to keep looking into these people's eyes. You've got to get performances. You know, the only way you do that is to look at them. You have to look at them. You're looking through the monitor. That's fine. But you also need to look at them directly. And you also have to make sure that, you know, those performances are there. And he goes, oh, Jan is going to making sure that. Don't worry about that. Jan is taking care. And I would say, no, Jan is not taking care of that. You're taking care of that. That's what directors do. And so the 5 days was misery for me. And just, you know, and he had a great time doing it.
What a riot.
Our friend on the chat, Fright Fiend, wants to know if you gave Michael J. Fox the same speech.
He gave what?
If you gave Michael J. Fox the same speech you gave Joel Silver.
He was great.
I probably did, only not as enthusiastically, perhaps. Joel and I, our relationship was only one of yelling. We never spoke to each other. My wife would always know when the phone rang and I answered it, and my voice went from this to this. She knew exactly I was talking to Joel. And we used to argue. I used to say to him, you know, Joel, our problem is we don't talk to each other. We're always arguing with each other. Why can't we just talk to each other? Can't we just bring it down and talk to each other? And he would look at me and go, I don't understand what's the matter with you. That's how we talk to each other. We're talking to each other. And I go, no, we're not talking to each other. We're yelling at each other. And he goes, no, we're not yelling at each other. And we would get into arguments like that. I mean, I would go into his office and, you know, I'd come home so frustrated and Jeannie would just give me a double scotch and sit me down and say, breathe.
I mean, Burt Young and Joe Pantoliano. I mean, the caliber of actors you had on every scene. Joe Pesci. I mean, and Pesci was probably fresh off Goodfellas right here.
Yeah, he was. Pesci was the best. Pesci was the best. Pesci, for some reason, I'm from New York, and we got along great. And when we're shooting the scene at the very beginning of the episode, which looks like a casino in Las Vegas,
it's at the Pantages Theater.
We had taken over the theater on Hollywood Boulevard, and we made that into the casino.
That's funny.
We're shooting at the casino. We're shooting on Hollywood Boulevard, and it's like 4 o'clock in the morning, and we're waiting for a setup. And Pesci looks at me and he goes, "Come on, come with me." I go, "Where?" "Just come on with me. I want to go for a walk." And I go, "Where do you want to go for a walk?" He goes, "Down Hollywood Boulevard, just the two of us." I go, "Are you crazy? It's 4 o'clock in the morning. We're bound to get mugged." He goes, "No, we're never going to mug us. Believe me, no one's going to mug me. Maybe they'll mug you. No one will ever mug you. Come on, we're going for a walk." So I go with him for a walk down Hollywood Boulevard. And, you know, it was just like two guys not making a movie, not dealing with the problems of getting it set up, just walking along Hollywood Boulevard at 4 o'clock in the morning, where, you know, drunks and us were the only people really on the street. And we just were chatting like two guys from New York, chatting about, you know, life. And then I looked at my watch. I said, "Look, we should get back, Joe." And he said, "Okay, all right, let's go back, turn around." And we went back to the set and we continued shooting. But he was he was just the most delightful guy to work with. He was such a sweet man.
It's blowing my mind that that's the Pantages lobby. I was just there a couple of weeks ago.
It looks great, doesn't it? Really, Greg did such a wonderful job. But Greg always did.
I took my daughter to see Beetlejuice the musical.
Oh wow!
How was it?
It was a great time. It was great. I loved it.
Good.
But like Pesci has like a when he's acting, he has like an intensity, like an intentionality. Is he like that off camera? Or is he like more chill? What's his vibe?
Who are we talking about? Pesci?
Pesci.
Yeah.
He was, you know, he was the character that you see him in these movies. But hold on, just screwed this up. But for some reason, he just seemed like a normal actor from New York to me, you know?
Yeah.
He was just a really, really good guy. He knew
I
what
think
he
that's
knew.
what makes him so great, is that he's so relatable. He's so natural. That's why he fits in with Scorsese so well, because it has that everyman quality. It has like that could be your next door neighbor. And when you watch him, it's almost like a voyeuristic sense of, you know, you get this voyeuristic sense that you're looking into someone's life. He brings that to every single role.
Yeah.
And yet there's always something a little dangerous about him.
Yeah.
Yeah, like he might stab you. You just don't know.
Yeah, that could happen. I mean, he's so good.
I didn't think about
Goodfellas. He's
that.
so
I
good
should
that
have
way.
spoken to you before I went for that walk at 4:00 in the morning.
I mean, I'm kind of curious with all the with the directors that you worked with, who was like some of the ones that you saw and you really just had admired as they worked, as they put a shot together or a scene together. Like, who stood out for you with all the legends that you worked with?
Well, Zemeckis. Because Zemeckis would just start a shot, and he just knew how far he could take it before it fell apart. And he didn't know that when he started the shot. He would just say, I want to do this, and we're going to move the camera this way, and I have the actors move that way, and let's just keep going. Okay, I can move that around here and pick up this and that. And it was just amazing to watch him sort of develop the shot as he was working the shot.
Jeez.
So Bob, and he was just so easy about it. It was just so easy going for him to do it. I mean, it just was second nature. That was interesting to watch. And I must say, both Billy and Frankenheimer were really interesting to work with, because Billy I could argue with and watch my nose not getting punched. And with Frankenheimer, I had to treat him totally differently. I had to treat him, I realized after day one, I had to treat him as if I were the studio president and he was working for me. So that I realized if I went to the set to talk to him, he basically would listen to me and ignore me. But if I stopped production and I called him to my office, had him sit down and close the door, he got my point and would listen to me. And that was really hard for me to deal with and do. But that's the only way I could get the work out of John Frankenheimer.
Wow. So much psychology behind it.
And Frankenheimer was so interesting because he would tell me stories about how, Robert Kennedy stayed at his house the night before they went to the Ambassador Hotel.
Wow.
And that he was with, Kennedy when he was killed. And I would just stand there because Kennedys, for me, have always been really special. I mean, from John F. Kennedy on. And he would tell me these stories about Robert Kennedy and about the Kennedy family that I was just on the edge of my seat listening to. So Frankenheimer was very different than Billy, and Billy was very different than Bob. And when you work with Walter, I mean, the partner said to me, with Walter, you just do what he wants. Do whatever he wants. If he goes over, don't worry about it. You'll make it up on another episode. But you give Walter what he wants. And I go, I can't do that. And he said, well, just don't question him. And so there was one day we were downtown shooting around 5th Street in LA in a bar. And I had read the work for the next day, and I didn't understand it. I had a problem. And everybody said, just leave it alone. Don't. And I said, I can't. I can't leave it alone. So I went over to Walter in between shots, and I said, listen, Walter, just the two of us sitting on chairs. I'm not sure I understand this. Can you just explain this to me? He goes, what are you talking about? And I read the scene to him. I said, look at this scene. And this is what happened before. And I don't understand how this happens now. It seems like something's missing. And he said, I don't have time to look at it now. I'll look at it later. I said, okay, fine. I just need you to look at it. And he sort of brushed me off, and I thought, oh, geez, they were right. I should have left him alone. And the next morning he came in, and I was having coffee and talking to some crew members, and somebody came over and they said, Walter Hill needs to see you right away. Right away. Go over there. And I thought, oh my God, what happened? I walked over, and we went into his trailer, and he said, he sat me down and he said, listen, I need to thank you because you were right. There's a piece missing. And no, it's funny how nobody caught that. Nobody said anything to me. And he said, but you here, take a look at this. Does this fix it? And obviously it did. And I said, it fixed it perfectly. And from that day on, Walter and I were like, attached at the hip. We loved working with each other, loved talking to each other, spending time together and all that.
That's so cool.
Going to the episode, tell me about the house. It's a Frank Lloyd Wright house, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, Joel was directing it. So it had to be a Frank Lloyd Wright house. And it was a problem because, there are a lot of problems with Frank Lloyd Wright houses, even the one that Joel had, which he never would admit. But I'm telling you, there were a lot of problems with that house. And, with renting one to shoot, I mean, you can just imagine the limitations and the care that we had to take that nothing got, destroyed,
It's
damaged,
cool,
or, anything. So that was in itself a deal and a problem.
And talk about casting for twins.
Well, you mean the twins?
Yeah.
Well, that Alan, correct me if I'm wrong. I think that was Joel's idea. I think.
Yeah, they hung around his office.
Yeah.
They were these.
And they looked like they were dead.
They were
looked
sweet.
so
They were
pale.
sweet girls, but they were the strangest. They were very strange people, and they were emaciated. They looked skeletal, and they were
Wow.
determined. Yeah, they just. I don't think they were Joel's groupies, but they hung around his office, just looking to break in, and something about them appealed to Joel, I guess. And
Yeah.
so part of the point of this exercise was to put them in the episode. We auditioned other people, but I think the fix was always in for these two.
They did fit though. That strange
they're great.
quality was really played well on the lens.
No, I think they're fantastic.
They're extremely well cast, but that's the trick. Great casting will. Hey, in this episode, it's got a crap director, but it's got a great cast.
Oh, wow.
Right.
Shots fired.
Well, hey, the truth is truth.
Truth is
I like to
truth.
think in my head canon that Joel Silvers is somehow hate watching all of these episodes that we do with these.
That would be a riot.
It would.
The casting process must have been overwhelming at times with that many episodes. And what was your shooting schedule? They were all back to back to back to back, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
we didn't
yes,
have any
yes.
writing time in between. Usually a lot of shows at that time, even, you would do 2 or 3 episodes, and then you'd have a week off to catch up on the next 2 or 3 or 4 episodes. We had to go 13 episodes or 12 episodes back to back to back. So on 5 days, you shoot. On the 6th day, the next episode started. So we always had 5 shows in the works. We were prepping 2, we were in post on 2, and we were shooting 1. And we would go into these meetings. Sometimes I would say, guys, you got to tell me what episode are we talking about? Because you're talking about what we're doing, and I have no idea what episode we're talking about. So let's start with that. And then
So overwhelming.
to think
It was
about.
an intense grind. Really and truly, it was a very intense grind, but it was the only way to do it.
Mm-hmm. I'm
Right.
just trying
I
to think,
mean,
like,
but you
now
have
you
all
would
the
have, like-
problems of. Go ahead, Jason.
I was thinking, like, if you made the show now, you'd probably have like a Google Drive, and you'd have like a spreadsheet with everything on it. Like,
Oh
They'd
well,
want to
modern
do
day
everything CG.
organizational. Yeah. Well, no.
be a very different experience. I'm quite sure.
And we'd have a lot more tools, but I'm not sure it would be any better.
Yeah, I don't think it would.
I don't know if those tools would have made it a better show. I don't think so.
No, the talent and what you guys did. And I mean, to me, when I was looking at the episodes, and now that I know you're shooting it back to back with all of that casting, and plus you have practical effects. So you're having to plan that out so far ahead to make everything match into the schedule, right? You have to have all the casting done, all the life cast done. There's so much planning and preparation. The ADs must have been working overtime.
Yeah, the ADs, everybody worked overtime. I mean, Greg Melton was a production designer, and he was always designing, like 5 sets per week, and we would try to go out. I think 2 days of the 5 to be on locations, which gave us more time to build, and then we had to be careful about how we're going to get the sets down. So we had 2 stages. We would be shooting on one and building on another. So we had to make sure that they were soundproofed. So and yet we were in warehouses. We never were in real stages or real studios. We were in warehouses. So we had to make that work.
Why was that?
Sorry?
Why were you in warehouses and not in the studio?
Too much money.
Makes sense.
You know, you could rent a warehouse that we would spend maybe $10,000 to make the warehouse ours, put in offices if we had to, put in a soundproof wall between the two if we had to. And then, and one of the problems we had was that rarely did we get a pickup after we finished the season. So we'd have to relinquish the, you know, not the ownership, but the rental. And so then we would be without a studio, and then we get the pickup 4 months later, and we would be in the market looking for a warehouse.
Yeah, you have to go start at zero again.
I was saying to Joel and to Dick, buy a warehouse. You know, you'll use it for your other movies if we're not using it, but we can use it. You know, we're using it 6 months of the year. We can easily rent it out. And they never wanted to know about that. They just didn't want to do it. So it made it more difficult. And Aaron Spelling was always behind us. And Aaron Spelling, as soon as we would finish Tales from the Crypt, he knew we had put this money in and made it into a studio. He would buy it.
Shoot 90210 there or whatever. Wow.
Yeah.
You know, years later, I directed Charmed for Aaron.
Okay.
And you know, one of the things he mentioned to me was, "Are you aware? I really owe you a great deal of debt." I said, "Really? Why? I could take it in cash." And he said, "No, really, it was because you did Tales from the Crypt, and then you let those studios go, and I just bought them." And I said, "Oh, that was you, huh?" Okay.
Smart, right? It's smart. That's why he is who he is.
Yeah.
But that also puts a lot of pressure on you in production, because you can't go back and do a reshoot because a lot of that doesn't exist anymore. So pickups and things that you'd have to go back for, you really can't do much of that because you wouldn't get the actors and things, right?
Right. We couldn't get the actors, but we had to schedule our pickups during the 5 days because of the actors. But a lot of the stuff, inserts and stuff like that, we could do. And we did, you know. There's a show that we did called Dead Weight that Toby Hooper directed.
Oh, wow.
I've told this story before. I'll try to make it quick. Toby, you know, I used to always have lunch with the director every day because I would learn, okay, how far have you gotten? What's left for the day? How are you feeling? Any problems? This actor, this grip, this electric. I mean, so I would learn a lot during lunch. And Toby, you know, I think it was the second day, said, "Oh my God, Gil, I'm so sorry. I don't know what to say to you. I fucked up. You know, you let me get that great shot at the beginning of the show, and I spent a lot of time doing that, and it's great. I'm so glad you allowed me to do it, but I'm way behind now, and we're not going to make the day." And I said, "We are going to make the day. I just want you to tell me where you are." And he told me, and I said, "Okay, I want you to, after lunch, I want you to first have lunch. I want you to relax. I'm going to go upstairs. I'm going to talk to Alan. We're going to come up with a plan. And then I'm going to come down in 20 minutes and tell you what that plan is. And if you don't like that plan, I'm not going to argue with you. I'm going to go back upstairs, and Alan and I are going to come up with another plan. But suffice it to say, we don't have money for more than today. We have to make the day." So we went upstairs, talked it over, came downstairs, and I said, "Okay, here's an idea. We're in this set. You're only shooting in this direction. You need a close-up going in the other direction. You can get that. But that's all. We're not going to move into the other set," which we built, and we set decked, and we lit, and we painted. I'm not mad at you. I'll use it on another episode. You're not going into that set. And he goes, "But Gil, the whole purpose of going into the other set was we'll hide the pearl. What are we going to do with the pearl?" And I said, "Okay, I said to you, you got to just listen to me. And after I speak, think about it for 5 seconds and then tell me what you think." Okay? He swallows the pearl. And he looks at me and he goes, "What?" I said, "Wait a second." And on insert day, I see it as a medium shot. Camera is slowly creeping in on the side of a cadaver. A hand enters frame with a knife. Squishy, squishy, squishy on the side of the cadaver. Blood runs down towards the camera. Camera's still pushing in. Hand comes in, goes into the cadaver, and pulls the pearl to camera. And he goes, and I said, "And that costs you nothing. Not today. That's on insert day. That's on my nickel, not on yours." And I said, "And I don't know if you like this idea or not. And if you don't like it, I'm telling you, I will go up with Alan and we'll come up with some other idea. And here's a shot list. I could do this in 7 shots. I don't expect you to use my shots. You might think they're inferior, and I don't give a shit. I have no ego about this. Make it your shot list. But 7 shots gets us out today. If you could do it in 9 shots and get us out today, or 6 shots, I don't care. But this is a way we can get out of the day. And he goes, he looked at me and his eyes were flashing around. And he said, I think that's better storytelling than what we had. This is really cool. And he said, let me see that shot list. So he looked at the shot list and he goes, this has never happened to me before. I mean, I usually get producers coming to the set and they usually go, they look at their watch and they go, you got 6 hours to finish and I'm closing you down. Now figure it out. And they walk off. And you actually came up with an idea that is really a better idea of storytelling and showed me how to do it in the shots. These are really cool shots. And I said, Toby, if you don't like the shots, don't use them. I don't care. I really don't care. And we got out of the day.
Wow.
And from that on, Toby and I were like brothers. We became like just close friends. To the day he died, we were just like really close friends. We would spend a lot of time together. My wife pulled out a picture. We recently found that in our backyard in Beverly Hills, I had a hammock, and Toby and I were on the hammock next to the pool chatting one day, and my wife got a picture of it. And it's just 2 guys on a hammock talking,
Well,
but Toby,
you still have that.
Awesome.
Send me a picture of that. I want to see it.
Yeah. Okay, we can do that. So that was it. I mean, that's how we did Tales from the Crypt. We had to, I guess part of it was, Alan and I had such a passion about doing these really well. Because I think back on my career and I think about the other movies I've made and stuff, and I go, why was Tales so special to me? I mean, and it really was. And I think it was partially because Alan was so special to me and our relationship was so special. And, we just figured things out in a way that most people don't figure things out. And I never forgot that. And I don't think Alan has either. And
certainly not. No, no, it was great. The creative environment was so dynamic.
I mean, and we argued all the time, but it was never arguing. It was always out of a passion of storytelling. I mean, I think back and I go, how come we never, really, broke up from writing together during those days or got into massive fights? We would spend like 10, 15 hours a day on the set together. And then on the weekends, we would get together with our wives. Yeah. It wasn't like, oh God,
right.
We would be together on the weekends, tooling around. Yeah. And so
we were in each other's pockets, really.
Yeah. And so I think it was that passion of wanting to do, we shared that passion of wanting to do a really good job. And once we figured out the sort of the formula of how we would get there, and it was getting a reaction, I think then we just really, kept doing it and needed to make sure we did it on time and on budget. And so we made like 94 episodes, I think, of Tales, and we never went over budget ever. And there's no genius to that. I used to tell people, it was Dick and Joel, and they on the first season we came in, they said, well, there's $1 million deficit and you've got to make up the $1 million because we're not writing a check to HBO. And that's the only way HBO renewed for the season we came in. And we said, yeah, okay, we'll figure it out. We'll make up the $1 million, which we did. But it didn't really show on what we took away from the shows.
Not at all. Why were they going to kill it after season 2 when it was such a popular piece of pop culture?
Because the partners went over $1 million, and Chris Albrecht and HBO said, we're not paying for that. And the partners said, well, we don't write checks. We only take checks. And so Chris said, well, then I'm canceling the show. And it was Chris who actually said, because I had done some work for Chris, and he had brought me in on a few shows when they were having problems. And he said to Joel, you should meet this guy. I think he might be able to help you. And that's how it all started.
Amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, Joel and I went on for when I think about this, I'm amazed at it myself. We worked together for almost 15 years on various TV shows, movies, series. But it was almost 15 years that we worked together.
It's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, you put together some amazing, iconic pieces as well as you went along. And I mean, this still stands the test of time. And it must be something that you look back on in your career. I mean, you and Alan just did you really made something that's unforgettable. And that's really rare in the business. You know, a lot of things get thrown away but you've made something that's so iconic. You know, it's getting re-released now and people have their favorite episodes, and
Yeah.
you know, it's a piece of pop culture, which is just, it's incredible. It's incredible to be able to have a conversation with the two of you, just because you
Well, you know,
really did something so special.
We go to some of these conventions now and then, and it's amazing how much these people know about the episodes. I mean, they ask us questions, and I'm like amazed that they even have any idea that happened or didn't happen. And it's just like, what? How could you possibly know that?
I'm not surprised at all.
What we learned was that for a lot of people, Tales from the Crypt kind of broke their horror cherry.
Yeah, I mean, I fall into that category where this is a touchstone of my young fandom.
For a lot of people out there, they watched it despite the fact that their parents told them you are not watching that program, or even more surprising, in a lot of cases, they were the children of horror fans who thought that Tales from the Crypt was the perfect way to introduce people they loved to something they loved.
And also, you know, you learn things along the way that you never realized at the time. We were at a convention, I think a year or two ago, Alan and I together talking about Tales, and Sean Austin was talking about something else. And all of a sudden, Sean was at our booth, and he came over, gave me a big hug, gave Alan a big hug, and he said, you know, I don't know if you guys realize how much me doing a Tales from the Crypt meant to me. And I was like, what? And he said, yeah, you know, my career was doing okay, but not great. And you guys put me in a Tales from the Crypt, and it changed everything around. And I've always been so grateful that I did Tales from the Crypt. I never knew this. And I said to him, well, I'm so glad you felt that way. I wish I would have known this for the last number of years. I don't want to say how many years since we did Tales, but you know, it was something that I learned like 2 or 3 years ago that's been in his head for 30.
Right. I mean, it was like Jason was saying, it was a piece of my youth that, you know, this is when HBO came on, so I had my own TV downstairs and I was discovering things like that. And I'm sure it was a very similar situation of when the generation before discovered the comics, right? They almost had this taboo feel to them, and they were just so different, and they were bright, and it was so unique from the horror perspective, especially in that half-hour format. You just didn't see anything like that. And you guys always had the sense of humor that went along, that drew you in with the Crypt Keeper and all of that. It really gave it this lightness, but you couldn't wait for the horror. So, you know, it really set the tone for a lot of how horror is approached. I think you can see that tonality in a lot of films after that.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because like in the horror pantheon, like the 90s are considered not one of the lesser decades, but I think this is like heads and shoulders right up there with anything else that came out that decade.
Agreed.
You can put it right up there with like Scream and Candyman. It's like, you know, especially horror TV by far. You know, probably one of the best horror TV shows. I don't know. I can't even think of what I put up against it.
As always, Jason, really thank you both for your incredibly kind words. Look, you know, it's still very gratifying to hear because it was a passion project. We were so creatively, it was such a wonderful experience because of all the incredible freedom we had. Over the course of the 5 seasons, 70 some odd episodes that we did, we got a total of 3 notes from HBO.
Jeez. Do you remember what those notes were?
Yes.
Yes,
I do. In fact, one of the notes was in the first episode that we looked at, What's Cooking? There was a line of dialogue where Chris referred to Judd's character. He said, "Oh, what do you know, Gaston? You're just a homeless guy." Well, that's how it was originally written. But Susie Fitzgerald, our HBO executive, even back then was very much into the fact the looming homeless crisis. And so she asked us to change that, the line of dialogue so it was less demeaning.
Huh.
That he was looking down on a homeless person because they were homeless. And so we said, "Oh, well,
What a
gosh,
funny
yes, of
note.
course."
That's a funny note when you're chopping people up and eating them.
Yeah.
Well, you know what?
Well, the notes we would receive, I think, 5 or 7 sets of notes. One from HBO, Joel Silver's people, Dick Donner's people, Walter Hill's people, Bob Zemeckis' people.
Oh my
They
Lord.
all had a say because they were all developing stuff for their bosses, and they wanted to make a name for themselves. So they would all have notes for us. So we would have like 5 or 7 sets of notes, and we would have to. After a while, we sort of blew them away and just said, "Don't give us a note unless it really has some teeth in it."
Yeah.
Because we would get these bullshit notes that didn't have any. What are you talking about?
Right.
But
After
we had to
we-
deal with that, and we had to deal with that politically, and we
Yeah.
had to deal with it so that it didn't affect the show because we were very protective of the show.
The first season, they really larded us with notes. But after the first season, when the show was still going, we had the bona fides to basically say, "Shut the fuck up.
There you
Take
go.
your notes and fuck off."
And the only
Yep.
person we cared about, really, the only was Bill Gaines.
Yeah.
When we first met Bill, we said, "Bill, your dad and you started these in 1955. We don't want to make the show something you don't like.
Mm.
We're going to show you every episode before we give it to the network, before we give it to the partners. If you don't like something, we're not going to argue with you. We're going to change it because we want to be respectful of what you and your dad created." And, I think he didn't believe us at first. And the first couple of times we gave him the scripts before we gave them to anybody. And he came back and with a couple of notes, we immediately made the changes, literally overnight. Gave it back to Bill. And he realized we're serious. We wanted him to be ecstatic about the show, not happy. He had to be ecstatic. And so we became terribly close with.
Oh, well, I'll finish the story for Gil. We met Bill Gaines on the set of Lethal Weapon 2. Joel and Dick were shooting that, and we had lunch with Bill Gaines, and that's where Bill Gaines formally gave us his blessing. And Joel gave Bill every chance he could to shit can us, and Bill said, "No, these I love what these guys are doing. They get it. Whatever they want to do is fine with me." And once we had Bill's blessing, Joel accepted that. We got notes from the partners because they had their development departments. So they had people. The person who gave us the most notes was Scott Nimmerfro, because Scott was also seriously a writer and a very good writer. Ultimately, Scott stopped giving us notes because he ended up getting 3 and 4 writing assignments a season, 4 or 5 writing assignments sometimes. Scott wrote more episodes than anybody, I think. Scott wrote by far some of the best episodes of Tales from the Crypt are Scott's. Once Scott began writing a lot of episodes, we didn't get any more notes from him. So it was one way to
initially Scott was a pain in the ass. I mean,
Yes,
Scott was like Donner's guy, and he was just giving us these notes, and he became one of our most trusted guys, and became the story editor for us, and left working for Dick and came working for us. And
in London, in the last season of Tales from the Crypt, when we went to London, we had never had a staff before. Gil and I were the creative staff. There was enough money in the budget that we could take Scott with us as the story editor, and that was great. It was great fun having Scott along with us, and Scott was of all the people in the creative team after Gil and I think Scott knew the territory better than anybody else.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm sure we could talk about this stuff all night, and I think we're gonna have to do this again.
I definitely could.
Well,
my mind's open.
Our calendars, but For everyone watching, we appreciate you joining us, and I love seeing all the comments, everything in the chat. It'd be really helpful if you like the video and subscribe to the channel, just to help with the mysterious algorithm that we're all slaves to. So I really appreciate that. Gil, Joni, Alan, Joe, thank you all so much for joining us. Real quick, is there anything you guys want to plug or any socials you want to give out before we wrap up?
I'd like to get a couple of recipes from Joe.
No problem.
He can provide.
Done deal. Done deal.
And
Done
plus,
deal.
might I make a suggestion, Jason? I thought you worked very well, but you might have just adjusted your meat cleaver just a tad.
Yes.
It was sort of leaning on your occipital. That's
I moved recently and I found this from God knows when.
Those are solid.
As
notes.
one does when one moves.
Mhm. It's amazing the things you find.
Yeah.
Joe, anything you want to plug real quick?
Yeah, I mean, at Chef Joe Gatto, you can see all of the stuff I just did with Fangoria, and I've got my new cookbook coming soon, and the new movie I'm doing with Joe Lansdale and Jeff Speakman from Perfect Weapon. It's interesting, but it's really cool based on a Joe book. But yeah, anything new I'm doing, you can always find me at Instagram at Chef Joe Gatto.
All right. And Alan, what you got cooking?
Well,
What's cooking?
Costard and Touchstone, my little podcast production company, we just started launching episodes of Dead Drop, our podcast about John Kiriakou, the spy who ratted out the torture program. We just started season 2, Doing Time Like a Spy, where John tells the story of how his training as a spy served him extremely well during his 23 months of being a prisoner in a federal prison. We just started launching those episodes. You can find them wherever you find your favorite podcast. It's Dead Drop, or at costardandtouchstone.com, where you'll find lots of podcasts, including the one that Gil and I we're doing, the How Not to Make a Movie podcast. We should do a special episode because of Tales from the Crypt, where we should do an episode, Gil.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
What are you sitting here doing nothing? What's wrong with us? Bunch of
Come on,
schmoes.
guys.
All right. Again, thank you, everybody. Just to give my ending spiel, I appreciate everyone for listening. I'd really appreciate if everyone would give us a rating or review on iTunes, a rating on Spotify, like and subscribe on YouTube, and follow us at Dads From The Crypt Talk on TikTok. And with that, I thank you for listening to Dads From The Crypt.
Follow Dads from the Crypt on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, or I will follow you to the grave. No, seriously, you really should watch. But be careful what you ask for. You may get it.